Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be testing out a new foundation and concealer. These are from Rare Beauty by Selena Gomez. So today I'm going to take you guys back and show you my initial reaction when I put my makeup on, give you guys my first impression on both of these products, and we're going to do a wear test. We're going to see how this holds up, if this holds up on oily skin. So that's what we're going to get into today. So before we get into that though, if you're here for the first time, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please make sure you subscribe and don't forget to click on your notification bell. I do try to post new videos every week. Make sure you let me know in the comments when you subscribe. I love to meet y'all. I love to just say, hey, how you doing? And I definitely want to just thank you for subscribing because you would really be helping me out and I would really appreciate it. And of course, for those of you who are returning and you're already subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate that as well. All right, you guys, let's jump right into it. Okay, so Rare Beauty by Selena Gomez, they have a whole lot of stuff in their initial launch, like much more than we're going to be talking about today. It looks like they have almost enough to do a full face of makeup, so I'm wondering what's going to come out next for them. I'm thinking maybe like mascara, maybe some cream eyeshadow, maybe some cream bronzer, but they have like almost enough to do a full face. But today we're just going to be focusing on the foundation and the concealer because that's all I bought. Oh, I'm lying. I actually bought one of their lip balms too, so I am going to use that today, but that's not going to be like the focus of the video. We're going to focus on foundation and concealer. So I would encourage you to go to the website and read up on the brand and not just stay focused on the makeup itself, because the brand has a really interesting mission. They're all about wanting you to feel comfortable in your own skin, more so having fun with makeup instead of feeling like you have to be reliant on it. They want you to start thinking about things like, instead of looking at certain things on your face as imperfections, maybe look at them as things that make you unique instead, which I really like that message. And they also speak to the beauty community having really high and unrealistic standards. So again, just helping people to just know that they don't really have to fit into whatever standard that is, just as long as you are comfortable with yourself. And the brand supports mental well-being. So they do have another section on their website called Rare Impact, where they talk all about mental health and well-being. So I would really encourage you to go to the website and read up on the company because I thought it was really interesting. I don't know too much about Selena Gomez because I'm not in that generation, but I feel like I learned a good amount about her just reading some of the stuff on the website. So I definitely think you should go and check that out. Okay, so let's jump right into the foundation. This is, what is it called exactly? This is called the Liquid Touch Weightless Foundation, and I picked this up in the shade 440C. So this is a weightless smooth glide formula that dries to a natural skin-like finish. It costs $29. It comes in 48 shades. So I do want to quickly point out with the packaging, the reason they have this ball on the end, this is supposed to make it easier for people who have any type of hand weakness to open and close it. So that's why it's packaged like that. Other than that, I think the packaging is, I would say, is kind of standard. The only thing that really sticks out to me is the ball on the end, but I do think that this, having this up here, is like really thoughtful. I think that's like a really good way of paying attention to detail in certain areas. Another thing that I learned about Selena Gomez is that she does have lupus, which is where this idea came from. So again, I have the shade 440C. Now, for those of you who are very familiar with my channel, you do know that I never ever test out a foundation for the first time with a primer. I don't like doing that because I want to see how the foundation is going to operate on its own. I don't want to give the foundation any assistance and like sway it to perform a certain way. I just want to see how the foundation on its own is going to hold up on my skin. But today I am going to break that rule and I am going to use a primer because this foundation is not water-based. And if you look at the instructions on the website, it does say be sure to moisturize first, then and prep the skin with the Always an Optimist Illuminating Primer for best results. So they do tell you to use the primer first, and I think the reason they're pointing that out is because their primer is water-based, and again, this foundation is not. So I think that's why they want you to use both of them in conjunction, because they want you to rely on the primer for the hydration, because you're really not going to get it from the foundation. So I don't have the primer from this line. I don't use primer on a regular basis, and even though they do have a mini size of it, I just didn't want to buy it thinking that I'm probably not going to really use it too much, but I am going to go in with something else that I think is pretty similar to their primer. But again, that's the only reason I'm going to go in with something underneath the foundation, is because I feel like to give it a fair shot, I do need to add like an extra boost of hydration onto my skin. So I do already have my moisturizer and my SPF on, but because the foundation isn't water-based, I do feel like I need to go in with something else that is water-based. And again, they're telling you to do that on the instructions on the website. To my knowledge, the only other non-water-based foundation that I've ever used is probably gonna be the Wet n Wild the stick foundation. Other than that, to my knowledge, every foundation that I've ever used has been a water-based one. So I'm gonna be starting off with the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Glotion. This one is in the shade Rose Gold, and this is a liquid illuminizer, but I have used this under foundation a million times with no problem. And I think I don't have a whole lot of primers in my collection, but I think out of everything that I have, this would be most similar to the Rare Beauty Illuminizing Primer. So I'm gonna start off with this. And then usually if I do wear a primer, I'm usually going to concentrate it in my T-zone area. But again, because this foundation isn't water-based, I feel like I'm gonna put this all over my face so that my entire face has like an extra boost of hydration. So even though I don't have the Rare Beauty primer, I do know that it is illuminizing, and so is this. And this one, I think I said that this is a water-based product, which is why I chose this. I was about to use the Tatcha primer because that one has like some pearlescent stuff in there, even though I don't really notice it on my face. But on the Tatcha primer, it does have water in it, but it's like the 4th ingredient, I think. Whereas with this stuff, water is the 1st ingredient listed. Alright, so now let's get into the foundation. And again, this is the shade 440C. It does say that you're supposed to shake this up, and I'm sure you guys can hear it has like a little ball or something in it to help you like really shake up the ingredients. I always shake up brand new foundations anyway, but this one, the instructions do say to shake it up. Now it says on here that if you want a medium to full coverage, that you should apply 4 swipes of the foundation, but I can't be sure if they're talking about on each side of the face or total. So it says apply 4 swipes of the foundation to the forehead, bridge of the nose, left and right cheek and chin and jawline. So the way I'm reading that is they're saying like 4 swipes all over your face. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to start off with 2 swipes on one side of my face, because I can always go back in and add more if I think I need to. I think I'm going to end up blending this out with a brush. I usually blend out like thinner consistency foundations with a brush and then thicker ones with a sponge, and I already know that this is pretty thin, so I feel like I'm going to use a brush for this. So this is what the applicator looks like, just so you guys will know. A lot of people don't care for doe foot applicators for foundation because they feel like this feels really, it feels oily on the skin. Like just that swipe, I made that face because just swiping it on my face, I didn't care for how that felt going onto my face. So I'm going to start off with this amount. Let me turn around some. Yeah, so some people don't really care for doe foot applicators for foundation. It doesn't really bother me. I know some people say that it's not sanitary, but I really don't understand how it's any different from the applicator on your concealer. Like, I guess the difference would be that you're putting the foundation on more surface maybe, but I don't really care. I mean, maybe I should, but I don't care about having a doe foot applicator. And with this foundation being so thin and liquidy, having that type of applicator is actually a good thing because you'll be able to control it when you're putting it on your face. Like, to have such a liquidy foundation come out of a pump, it's just gonna stream down your face really fast. Okay, so first impression wise, like I said, I didn't like the way that the swipe felt on my face because it felt very oily. It is blending out really, really easily though. I'll put the top 2 ingredients in this foundation on the screen because Lord knows I can't pronounce them, but I'm not like a cosmetics like ingredient expert or anything like that, but I did look up the ingredients in this foundation, and these 2 products, they really help for things to like break down, for the ingredients to break down, and they help for things to like spread out really easily. So that's why this foundation is spreading out. I think if you do try this foundation, the first thing that really sticks out to you is how easily it just blends into the skin. So even though I don't like the way that the swipe felt, I will say that it blends out really nicely. And I feel like I'm getting light to medium coverage with those 2 swipes. I am pretty surprised though at the level of coverage based on how liquidy it is. Like, so far, it's reminding me of, do you remember the Ordinary foundation? I don't even know if they still sell that, but it's reminding me of that, and it's also reminding me of maybe the Pat McGrath foundation, because both of those foundations are like really thin, really watery, but they give like a good amount of coverage. And as expected, this is a really good shade match for me. And again, like, I'm the shade 440C if you can use me as a reference. So again, over here, this is 2 swipes of the foundation versus no foundation over here. So I'm going to put 2 swipes on here and blend it out. Then we're going to see how the foundation builds up, because it is supposed to be a medium buildable finish. So let me quickly put 2 swipes over here. And I always start my foundation on my cheek because that's always where I want the most coverage, because I have a lot of scarring in that area. My cheeks always break out, but I'm guessing this is maskne that I'm getting now because my face just keeps breaking out, so I guess that's what it is. Okay, so here we have a total of the 4 swipes of foundation, and I still feel like it's giving me medium coverage. I think that this looks nice. So even though I do have like scarring and stuff on my cheeks, this is really the level of coverage that I go for on a regular basis. I'm not really into full coverage, even though I can still see like some of the scarring peeking through. I would just rather not have like too much foundation on my face. So to me, this looks really nice. I do really like the shade of it, again, 440C. And I think it's a really nice shade match for me. So the next thing we're going to test out is if the foundation is buildable. So I'm gonna go in with 2 more swipe. Let's start with one more swipe because I don't want to put on like too much foundation. So I'm gonna go in with 1 more swipe on this side of my face. I feel like I need to do 2. Let me just do 2 more swipes on this side of my face, and then we're gonna see if this builds it up to full coverage. Well, that definitely covered up everything else on my cheeks. So yeah, I would say that it is nice and buildable. I always like to test how foundations build if it claims to be a buildable finish or buildable coverage, because if it does build up really nicely, and this one seems to do that, it makes for like a more versatile foundation, one that you can get more use out of, because I can go for this level of coverage for like everyday wear, but then if I wanted to do something more flawless, I can use the same foundation and get more of a flawless look. So that's why I always like to test if foundations build up the way that they claim to. So I know you guys can still see the texture on this side of my face, but I do feel like the foundation did a good job of the second layer. It did a good job of covering up the rest of the scarring. So I think it is a nice buildable finish. So there's 2 layers of the foundation over here versus 1 layer over here. So I do think it looks really nice either way. But like I said, this would be more my speed for every day, but I think both sides look really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another 2 swipes over here just so that we have the same amount of coverage on both sides. Okay, so here we are with what I would consider like medium to full. I would consider this more so full coverage on both sides of my face. I think it looks really nice. So my first impression on this, it's a really pretty foundation. It does look like it gives you a good amount of coverage, but it still looks natural on the skin. I think it looks really pretty. And like I said earlier, the first noticeable thing about this is how it blends out. It just blends out like so effortlessly. So I do really like it so far. But going back to this foundation not being water-based, so I like it now, but I kind of feel like this really isn't going to hold up on me. Like even though I went in with my, even though I went in with this underneath it, and even under this I had like really hydrated skin underneath. I just feel like when you have water in your foundation, that just further helps your oils from like coming through. So for someone who has my skin type, which I'm sorry if I didn't say this earlier, but I have an oily skin type, so I feel like someone with my skin type, I'm going to need something in my foundation to add to the hydration, because that's kind of like what prevents the oils from coming through. So if you take a foundation like Estee Lauder Double Wear, for me, this is probably the most mattifying foundation that I've ever worn. Even though it's very matte and it does a really good job of keeping your face looking oil free for a very long time, one of the reasons it's able to do that is because it has water in it. So because this one doesn't have water in it, there's really nothing that's going to prevent my oils from coming through whenever they feel like it, you know? So maybe this stuff will help underneath, but I just feel like I have a feeling this isn't going to last very long on my face at all. So maybe you can counter that. If you have my skin type, you may be able to counter that by using like a hydrating primer, or maybe using powder underneath the foundation, and that may further help. But I don't know, I'm kind of nervous about the wear test that I'm going to be doing, but we'll see. But first impression wise, to only have had this on my face for what, like 5 minutes, I really like it so far. So let's move on to the concealer. So I ordered my products online. They came in the mail this morning, and I unfortunately got the wrong shade of concealer, but I think I can still work with this. I know it looks super bright in the container, but it actually looks a little bit darker when you take it out. But this is the shade 340C. I ordered 390C, but they sent me this, so they are going to send me 390C, and they shipped it out today. But at this point, I probably won't get it until like after the holiday, and I really want to get this video out like over the weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and use this because I feel like I can make it work. But this is called the Liquid Touch Brightening Concealer. So it's supposed to be whatever color you get in your foundation, the same shade in the concealer is supposed to be compatible. So for instance, 440C is supposed to be like a brightening version of the 440C foundation. Now to me, just looking at the shades online, to me they look too similar to the point where I wouldn't have gotten the brightening effect that I would want. And I don't even like a super bright under eye. I like it to be subtle, but even for me, I felt like I would have wanted something a bit brighter. That's why I wanted to get 390C. But just in case you think you want to go with what they're recommending, you can get the same shade concealer as the foundation, and they're meant to be compatible to each other and still give you that brightening effect under your eye, just so you're aware of that. So this is a lightweight hydrating concealer that gives you buildable coverage when you need it while brightening the skin with a radiant finish. Now this is a water-based product, and now that I'm thinking about it, I wish I had gotten this in the shade 440 440C because I did look at the ingredients in this one too, and I feel like the formula for this would be better as a foundation on someone with my skin type as opposed to the concealer. So let me know in the comments if you would like to see a follow-up video with me using the concealer as a foundation, because I'll probably go back and buy, if I like this concealer, I'll probably go back and buy it in the shade 440C and try it out as a foundation. So let me show you guys the doe foot on here. I think it's very unique. I think it'll be very easy to get like right up in the corners of your eye. So I like to build my under eye concealer up. So I like to do one swipe that is really light, but again, I feel like I can work with it, so just bear with me. So I'm going to go in with a very little bit. I like to build it up, so I like to go in with one layer and then blend it out with my sponge, and then I'll go in with another layer, let it sit for a little bit, and then blend it out with my brush. So I'm going to start off and just blend this out with my sponge. And my first impression on this product, just like with the foundation, this just blends out like so easily. I really like the way that these products just blend. I feel like I am having to blend more than normal because the foundation, or the concealer rather, is a lighter shade. So I feel like I just have to further blend to make it not be so noticeable that it's so bright. Okay, so that's one layer of coverage with the concealer. I only put on a little bit, and I feel like for the amount that I put on, I think I got a good amount of coverage out of that. So I'm gonna go in with some more here. It's a really creamy consistency too. It feels like, it almost feels kind of like maybe moussey or something. I always put concealer there too because I have dark spots. Okay, I have no idea when my camera cut off, so I'm hoping that y'all saw me put on the first layer of concealer. I think you did. I think it just cut off on me, but I blended out the concealer on my chin and on my forehead. I only put a little bit there because, again, this shade is a little too light for me. But I'm going to go ahead and let this concealer sit. I like to let my second layer thicken up a little bit, so I'm going to let this sit while I do my brows off camera, and then I'll come back and blend this out. Okay, so I'm going to go and blend out the concealer around my mouth and then under my eye, and I always like to do the second layer of concealer with a brush just to give me even more coverage and to help me like keep the concealer like right where I want it. Only because with the sponge, I think I said earlier, when you blend out with the sponge, I do the first layer with a sponge really just to save time because it is faster, but it will shear out the coverage a little bit. I am gonna have to go on top of this though with my sponge, I feel like, to finish blending it out, just because again the shade is just a bit too light. But I will say, like, I'm always complaining about not being able to find a whole lot of complexion products that I can use because it just seems like everything in my complexion range, I feel like my concealer looks really bright on camera. It doesn't look as bright in my mirror as it does on the camera, but I feel like everything in my complexion range is always a warm or neutral undertone, and it's hard for me to find like cool tone stuff. So I will say, with the way that this concealer is performing so far, if I really like the shade 390, I'm switching back over to my sponge. If I really like the shade 390, that would be a concealer that I could use on a regular basis because I do really like this so far. It's just that the shade to me is coming off a bit, it's coming off a bit ashy to me, but I think that's the shade of it, not, that doesn't have anything to do with like the performance of it. Yeah, this is too ashy for me, so I'm gonna have to go on top of this with another concealer. So I feel like I won't be able to fully test the concealer today because I'm about to mix it with something else, but just so that you can see before. Yeah, my concealer looks super bright on camera, but this is what it looks like just so you guys can see. But I'm going to mix in a little bit of my Too Faced concealer. This is in the shade Mocha. I just need to tone this down a little bit. Okay, now I'm just using my sponge just to like smooth everything out. So I feel like I can only give you like a true, like real first impression on the concealer because I've only had it on my face by itself for just a few minutes. So I'm not going to say too much about the concealer. I feel like I'm not going to be able to give it like a real test because I just mixed in another concealer with it. But first impression wise, I really liked it. I like the way that it applied. I like the way that it blended out. And like I said, I feel like I might be able to use the shade 390 as like an everyday concealer. This one is pulling just like a little ashy on me, but the way that it blends and everything is really nice. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and set my face. I'm gonna be using the Pretty Vulgar setting powder for my under eye. I forgot to close my window before I started filming, so you guys have probably been hearing a lot of like outside noise. I forgot. I apologize. So I feel like my under eyes look a little bit better now that I've set them, but I can tell that the shade 390, that's the one that I really need. So lately I've been setting the rest of my face with the Sephora Micro Smooth Baked Powder Foundation. This one is in the shade Tan. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the rest of my face with this. I'm putting a little bit of this on my under eye area too, just to further tone it down. Okay, so here is what my base is looking like now that I have everything applied and set. And I do still think it looks really, really nice. Now, of course, just setting it with powder has mattified it a little bit. So to me, it looks nicer because it's not super shiny or anything. It still looks nice and natural, but it doesn't look like, you know, overly shiny. So I still really like it so far. So I'm going to quickly throw on some eye makeup, just a very simple look. Normally, I'll do my cheek products off camera when I'm doing a foundation test, but I feel like today I want to do that on camera just so that you guys can see like how those products are applying on top of the foundation, like even though I've already set it, but I'm going to be using powder products. So let me do my eyes really quickly and I will be right back. Okay, so I was gonna do some eyeshadow, but I decided to just do bronzer. I just put a little bit of bronzer on and an inner corner highlight, and I'm just gonna leave it like that for now. So my eyes are partially done. I haven't done like my mascara yet, but I do want to show y'all how my cheek products go on over this foundation. So yes, I do already have it set, so technically it's going on top of the powder, but I just want to show y'all how the cheek products are gonna work with this. Everything that came out in this line, I'm using the Charlotte, can y'all see that? I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer in the shade Tan. Everything that came out in this line is all liquid, so they're definitely going to work better together. But you know, this will be a good test too to see like how powder products pair with this. I'm not a big fan of like liquid stuff. Well, let me not say that. I've never tried liquid stuff on my cheeks. Like that's just one thing that I'm intimidated by it. I'm just so used to using like powder blushes, powder bronzers. So I didn't buy any of the cheek stuff. I do have a couple of liquid highlighters, but you know, I prefer powder stuff on my cheeks. So far with my bronzer, this is blending out really nicely on top of this foundation. This particular bronzer though, it has hyaluronic acid and mica in it. So those are two products that help to make this bronzer like really like skin-like and easy to blend, but still it's not the same as a liquid, you know? Okay, so I like the way that the bronzer applied over it. So for my blush, I'm going to be using the NYX Sweet Cheeks matte blush. This is in the shade Summer Breeze. So no issues with that. And then for my highlighter, I'm going to go in with the Fenty Beauty Kilowatt highlighter. I'm going to use the shade Sandcastle. And I'm just putting a very little bit on the high points of my cheek. I've toned down with highlighter a lot in the past few months. Like I'm noticing that I prefer much more of a subtle highlighter these days. Because back in the day, like highlighter used to be like my favorite product, and I used to use like more than this, I'll say. All right, so far so good with all of the cheek products. I'm gonna set everything in place, and I'm gonna be using the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. I'm actually going to use something else because I told y'all in a recent video that I think my bottle is defective. Like, I can't even get it to spray out now. So I'm just going to go in with my Fenty spray. Okay, I went ahead and put on my eyeliner and mascara. I did that off camera. So now we're going to finish everything up with one of the Rare Beauty lip balms. This one is in the shade Support. So this is what the packaging looks like here. I think it's really unique. Very nice and simple. And then this is the shade here. This is supposed to be kind of like a plummy chocolate shade. Ooh, I like the way it feels. Ooh, I like this. It feels really soft. Okay, I feel like I had to clean up around the edges a little bit, but I really like the way that this feels. This is a lip balm, but I feel like it has a lot of pigment in it for it to be a balm, but it's so soft. I love the way this feels. So now that I have this on, we might as well go ahead and do a wear test on this one too, but oh gosh. But I think that I kind of already gave you guys my first impression on the foundation and the concealer. I really like them so far. Like I said earlier, I am still concerned about how long this is going to last on my oily skin because it doesn't have water in it, so we'll see about that. If you guys are a bit more versed in all of this than I am, because like I said earlier, I'm not like a cosmetic ingredient guru or anything like that, so let me know what your take is on this not being a water-based foundation. I'm just going off of like my experience and, you know, knowing what I know about my skin. I just have a feeling that this just isn't going to hold up on my skin for very long, but we'll see. So first impression wise, I do really like everything. I did not like the way it felt when I put the concealer, or the foundation rather, on my face. It just felt oily, but when I started to blend it out, it was a really nice experience. I think it blends out like a dream, the foundation and the concealer, and I love the way my makeup looks today. So the real test is going to be how long will it hold up on my face. So we're going to get started with the wear test, and it is 12:52 in the afternoon right now. So I will be back in a little bit. I have no idea how long the wear test is going to last. I'm just going to keep it on my face until I feel like it's time to refresh the makeup. Then I'll come back, show y'all what it looks like. And another thing that I like to always test out with new foundations is how does it refresh. So when I feel like my face does start to oil up, I'm gonna blot and repowder and see if it looks like freshly applied makeup. So I will see you guys a little bit later on. Okay, you guys, I am back and it is 6:51. So basically 6 hours of wear for this wear test. So that's not a really long wear test, but it is long enough for me to determine how I feel about this foundation. And I am very surprised. I'm like very surprised at how well this held up on my face. I really thought after like 2-3 hours that I was going to look like a complete oil slick, but I am just so happy with how the makeup looks after 6 hours. I think my makeup looks really nice. So I am shiny around the nose area, but not like super shiny. And same thing with the forehead, but I'm not as shiny in the forehead as the nose. I feel like up here is just like a little bit of natural oils peeking through, but I mean, overall, I feel like it looks like a natural, like healthy glow, nothing like too crazy. I will say though, I'm not sure if I would have gotten the same outcome if I hadn't gone in with this as a primer underneath. So I will be testing the foundation out again. It'll most likely be my next video, and I'm going to try the foundation again without a primer to see how it holds up that way, because like I said in the beginning of the video, that's why I don't like pairing primer with a foundation the first time that I'm using a foundation. But I mean, I felt the need to do that with this one. So let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comments, but I just felt like it was necessary to use something more hydrating with this particular foundation. But I think it looks really nice. So the last thing that we're going to do is I am going to blot in my T-zone area and reapply some powder, and we're gonna see how the makeup refreshes. But I feel like I really don't even have to refresh if I don't want to. Like I think my makeup looks just fine. Like it's a little bit of oil coming through, but nothing too crazy. So I'm just gonna take a piece of tissue and I'm just gonna blot around my nose and on my forehead. And I always do this when I'm testing out foundations because, you know, just in case I'm out and about with the makeup on and I need to refresh it, I just want to see, you know, what it looks like when I do that. So as expected, just getting rid of that oil. That right there made a huge difference, and I'm gonna put a little bit more of my powder on top of this. So in case you're watching one of my like foundation reviews for the first time, I usually would wear a full face of makeup like this only when I'm going to like a special event or something like that. So I really only need my makeup to last like 4 or 5 or 6 hours. So just as I thought, after putting the powder on, to me it looks like I just applied the makeup and I feel like it looks just fine. But like I said, I think it looked fine before I put the powder on too. So my final thoughts on the foundation, I would definitely recommend it. I'm really curious, like people with dry skin, I wonder how they feel about this, because I feel like even if you have dry skin, you would do better with a foundation that has water in it, because whether you have dry or oily skin, you just need like that hydration. So I'm curious about that. But especially if you have my skin type, I would definitely recommend this. I would also recommend though that you either buy the primer that goes along with this or just use a hydrating primer along with it, that, you know, one that you may already have. But I am definitely going to try this out again without a primer underneath. I guess you could also kind of like just put on more moisturizer or something, but I just feel like you really need something hydrating to go along with this foundation. But generally speaking, I would definitely recommend this because I think it looks really, really pretty. I know I didn't talk too much about the concealer in this part of the video, but everything that I said before is basically all that I have to say about it, because I'm gonna have to wait until I get the other shade in the concealer before I can give you like my final thoughts on that. So let me know what y'all thought about the video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by giving me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave today, and I really hope to see y'all back here for my next video. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.